Well, hello and welcome. I'm so excited to have with me here the lovely Alexanders, the couple that we have known since our college days. And we're so excited that they're bringing another level of expertise and knowledge as we've been able to see them truly develop, as well as sharing their gifting and their ministry. We've seen them in action in their own local church and of course in their professional arena, and then of course as collegiate scholars. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Tiffany and Jason Alexander.
Hello.
Hello, people.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So I know we decided that we wanted to be able to shed light on some things today as a couple in this couples talk segment, specifically focusing on faith and family, especially at a time like now. Of course, times are different with us having been in a pandemic and under quarantine, and we're still staying strong and hopefully pursuing our passion and our plans. And so we're going to be discussing a bit of that together today. So the first question is, how do you both plan for a radiant life you love?
Ooh. Go ahead, Tiff.
Of course, we both want each other to answer first.
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Yeah.
Good answer. Good answer. I plan. I like to kind of take things step by step, only because sometimes if I think big picture, then I get overwhelmed. So my planning usually starts at like Sunday, just kind of writing down day by day what I want to accomplish that week. And so that kind of helps me guide me as I go throughout the week. And there's days where I'm just like, you know what? Today's not that day. Let me move this to another day. And I think that's important too when you're planning a radiant life. You sometimes may not feel so radiant that day, but as long as you're like continuing to move forward and get that thing done that you have on your list, or that you want to accomplish, you can still get it done in a good time frame, if you're just focused on it. So that
Awesome.
I plan to,
Live a radiant life.
yeah.
Okay. No, that's absolutely good. Because a little bit of mine is part of that too. But I'm in the family. I'm more big picture, long-term view, and Tiffany has the skill set to put all the pieces together and get all the nuances together. So like for me, when you say radiant life, it's like a life that's fulfilled, is purpose driven, is aligned with our Father in heaven, and so we do that in the beginning of the year. We kind of figure out what we want to happen in the year. We live by some principles. We want to have a household that's full of hospitality, that's loving and things like that. And so from a big picture, that's what we want to be. But as far as my day to day, how I accomplish that, I kind of just go, for me, every morning, or Sundays as well. I have this moment called Selah, Sunday Selah, where I just pause and reflect. And Corona has caused a lot of people to pause and reflect.
Right.
So I take it as a time to just, stop watching TV, whatever, just give myself 30 minutes to an hour. And I use a journal and I write down what's going in my mind, what's happening over the week, and then have like a prayer. It's like, Lord, what is it you want to happen in this upcoming week? And so that kind of helps me gauge my goals. And for me, I feel radiant, I feel empowered, I feel like I'm accomplishing things if I have those marks. And it's a book that I learned that helps me, because on that Sunday when I'm putting down my marks for the week, there's a book called First Things First, and it talks about big rocks versus little rocks. And I'm not gonna go through the whole illustration, but it kind of tells you like, really you need to set your big rocks in life down first, and all the distractions that are like little rocks that you like just come and kind of aggravate you, or just flare ups, fires that you got to put out. They'll start distracting you and make you think that that's most important in life, and you put the fire out but you don't feel fulfilled.
Mhm.
So it tells you to focus on the big rocks first and plant those. So when that Sunday morning, or that Sunday when I'm taking my Selah, I am putting down the big rock. So we take time to discuss like what we're gonna do for date night, which is a Friday. And then we take time to say what are the big things we're gonna do this week. And I make sure those are there because she knows I would forget.
Yeah. And I want to add, we just started implementing. We used to do this earlier in our marriage. We've been married for 8 years, and we used to do this earlier, but we kind of like tapered off. But we're re-implementing, deciding what days of the week mean what. So Mondays are, well, Sundays pretty much are, like you said, the Sunday Selah, and just kind of writing down what needs to be done. Sometimes I'll cook on Sundays, or I may do it on Monday. But Mondays, once, in the evening time, we have what's called Family Matters. So whatever we have to discuss amongst each other, we kind of, talk about it, talk through it, work on some things.
Doing a little walk.
Yeah, and we like to take walks too.
Trying to do walking, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then on Tuesdays, we're actually focusing on conceiving, having children. And so we are reading a book about prayers and promises and scriptures as it relates to conception. So we call it Bible Baby on Tuesdays. And then Wednesdays, we have Bible study. Thursdays, in the evenings, we just take time for ourselves. So like yesterday, I think we both ended up watching movies. I'm really not a big movie person, but I needed a movie yesterday. So I watched like 2 movies, and he was in his own office watching his movies. And then Fridays, date night. Saturdays, it's kind of out and about, maybe yard work.
Errands.
Yeah, errands. And that pretty much concludes, how we operate every week as a family.
Beautiful. I love that. And thank you for sharing, in such an intimate way, how you go about really planning for that life you want to live, a radiant life. I found, and when you mentioned Friday date night, I don't know if it's a universal code or what it is, but that's our date night too.
Yeah.
And, even if it's as simple as deciding that we're going to eat in or eat out or go for ice cream, and me being able to capture this new flavor. People look forward to that in the stories. My husband is not very big on social media because he doesn't relate to the millennial generation, even though he's a millennial. And he still doesn't want to embrace it. Right? But I share those things because people are always intrigued. And I know it doesn't really matter. For us, it shouldn't matter what's going on in our lives and really how other people perceive us. But especially when you're involved in ministry and you're a person of faith, people do wonder, is everything okay? And when you're ministering, you're trying to minister to the whole man. And a big part of that is relationship, right? And it's so important that, of course, we know as marriage relationship, it's a reflection of God and the church. So it has to be the first priority. And husband is making these looks right now, which is like right. And so it's always, we're always cracking up over here.
Josh, did you cut him?
It's like tapering off over here on the side.
Taper?
Know what's going on.
Should do that?
No.
Yes. So but I want to make sure that people do understand that, it is something that we do want to take people along on the journey. It is important. And there are ways in which you are able to have a system in place. And it's not that you're being so regimented or, being so strict, but it's to provide a framework. And what I appreciate about you two as a couple, after having seen you blossom from day one, and I still have that picture where we're all 4 of us, along with another beautiful couple who just came back from, I believe it was Spain, Acacia and Chris. So they just came back, and we were all of us as couples had gone out to eat somewhere. And it's just so beautiful to see that over time, you guys not only have had a system in place for your family, but also when it comes to the businesses that you've decided to involve yourself in, as well as the faith aspect. So I want you to share a little bit about faith, the role that faith has played, as a couple and as a family.
Okay. Well, I'll start a little bit. So it's interesting. I'll share this. The biggest part of our test of our faith, I think, is the best way to. I'm going to describe a test moment, a testing moment. I think that will illustrate our faith levels and how we matured and all that stuff. So we do have, Tiffany talked about conceiving. So one of our challenges in our marriage is conception and fertility and things like that. And so with that, there's different levels of belief as you go through the ebb and flows of cycles and things like that. And you try to say, oh yes, this is it. No, it's not. And those kinds of things. And so it tests your faith, it tests, do you believe what God says about you? And one thing that we kind of battle with is sometimes one person be here and one person be here. And it's like somebody's pulling somebody else up. And as I talk it out, it's like that's not the most efficient way or that the best way to receive God's blessing in a sense. It's not like you can earn it, but the Bible clearly says where two or more, and where you agree, and if you're not agreeing on the same promises of God and you got some doubt, then you're not as strong. And so in this season, I think that we found some resources that kind of helps us get our faith at the same level, right? And it takes, like for me, believing that, we'll get there. And the same thing for Tiffany, right? Like believing that, okay, I'm going to be patient. Sometimes I have to be more patient, or she has to be more patient with me, and vice versa. So I think in that time, that has allowed us to draw closer together, right? And yeah, I mean, it helps. Like right now, like it took a lot of us. It took us to go to our separate moments with our alone time with God, and just really dig in and dig and believe what He is saying, or find out what He says about fertility and whatever, or our own self-esteem and things like that. And so as you peel back those layers, I think we've developed.
Yeah, I definitely think we've developed, and this is our most recent challenge, or I wouldn't say recent, this is our first concerted effort with conception. So it's been something that we've definitely had to be even bigger in believing. Other areas tend to kind of get a little easier in terms of us having faith about things, like faith about getting a house. We just bought a house in March. And so that's something that we generally, there was some faith component to it, but it wasn't that we had struggles with it so much. We knew that God was going to provide for us in that area. And then even, with career choices and jobs and things of that sort, we've had to trust God and know that, we're here, we're in certain places for a season. And a great example of that in terms of career is when I graduated from Spelman, I ended up working at a camp the first year,
Yes, you did.
the summer camp. And I was like, what in the world? Like, I graduated, summa cum laude, and, I thought I was going to be, banking in corporate America and stuff. And I ended up working at a camp, but lo and behold, I met some mutual friends there, and that's how I met Jason. So it's like having that faith, like in spite of like your circumstances, has really, or expectations, other people's expectations too. Like I'm sure other people were like, haha, she's working at a camp, $7 an hour. Like what's going on? What is God doing? But those are the moments that you realize, like, okay, I was kind of shaken then, but I see what happened, and I see how God worked it out. So I can believe God for other things.
Beautiful.
I want to say too, one thing that helps us when we have different levels of faith between us, or any moments of doubt, is that I guess we have really developed talking it out.
Yeah.
Like sharing our doubts with one another.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm not feeling this, and it's kind of hard a little bit. I've been more hesitant, and now I'm coming out more and more of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that definitely allowed us to, when we talk about it, we're not talking at each other, we're kind of talking it spread. Like she said something other day. It was about conception. She was like, I want you to empathize with me. I was like, I understand you. She's like, no, there's a difference. And I was like, okay, I don't understand, but but just being able to let someone speak fully, and then just trying to embrace that fully as well has helped.
Beautiful. You know, I really do. First of all, congratulations. I know we've been over by your home when you were in another arrangement, which was so beautiful and awesome. And now you have a home. So congratulations. Um,
You could say that place was a matchbox. This is
but all the amenities and all of that was so cool.
Yes.
But yeah, no, you are already taking, you know, those steps where you are in a positioning yourself for the family that you're going to have and believing, you know, with you for that. And, you know, they always do talk about, you know, being able to have that child is a gift. And I know that that gift is promised unto us, as you said. It is a promise, and it is for his people. And just like you said, you know, everything really does, you realize, not in the moment, but eventually, that it was all working together for your good. I love that story of how you both met. I think it's the first time I've ever heard that it was as a result of, you know, where you are professionally and career-wise that led to you meeting your husband. Awesome. So I want to go ahead and talk a little bit more about that idea of communication. So you mentioned earlier that you found that you've been able to try to empathize, try to understand, and to discuss certain things. And one of the things that I found, especially in my relationship, you know, my husband is more of the type of person who will go ahead and he will, what is the word? He will internalize things, and he will go forth with just getting things out of his system in such a way where, whether it's reading a book, or I know in the very beginning of our marriage, he would take a drive. Like he would do certain things like that would be his way of being able to let go of whatever issues or things that we were having. And I'm just like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it now. Like I was always the big communicator. And, you know, to this day, yes, he's the talker, right? So there's always one person, I believe, in the relationship that's really good at just trying to sit down, hash through the problems, articulate, and just trying to find that happy medium is something that you have to do, really. I found personally with my you know, wisdom and necessarily growing and experience in relationship as well as in faith, is that I had to realize when to sit still, as the scripture says, be still. And then I would have to just let him work out what he needs to work out, pray over certain matters, let things just kind of get to a place where I'm calm and I can have a nice, cool, collected conversation after the heightened experience of it all.
Yes, amen. I raise my hand as one of those people for you, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm like, I gotta internalize it. I need time. Give me a second.
I mean, it was really bad. I mean, like, why do you need so much time to internalize what choice you're gonna make for dinner? Just make the choice.
It wasn't even about
Come on
dinner.
now, is it a
Whatever.
burger or cheeseburger? Burger or cheeseburger? Which one are you gonna do? I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So then how did you both work through those sort of ways of finding that happy medium as a couple to communicate and be on that same wavelength and be in sync?
We're still working through it.
We're still working through it, but I think there's times you have to realize the sensitivity of the matter. So, not just the sensitivity of it, but the time sensitivity of it. Like, you can't sit there and wallow in being disappointed or whatever. Like, sometimes things need to be addressed immediately. And I think you've also kind of learned to just kind of sometimes give me my space, you know, and it's dying to, you have to die to yourself literally, because, you know, one person might want something and the other person doesn't want another person. So it's kind of like a give and take depending on the situation. And so that's how we've kind of been able to.
Like for me, it's the Bible says, you know, deal with your wife according to knowledge. Mm-hmm. So that knowledge would come, but my comprehension of it, like I knew that she would communicate, oh, I need time, I need space. I'm like, okay, so that needs like 5 minutes, right? And I'll come back. Like, no, that's not 5. I need space. Like, oh, so I need 20 minutes. I come back. Right. So through the 8 years or 7 years.
So now, early in our marriage, you said the number of days.
Yeah. No. Well, okay. So through the 8 years, I've learned her, like, how much time you need. And really, sometimes you'll eat at me like, dang, it's been 2 days. I mean, like, I really need to get this going.
Yeah, I gotta work on that sometimes.
So, but that's where you trust the Holy Spirit to be your comforter, right? To comfort you and believe that this matter is not going to be put to the side and it's not just going to fall to the wayside. But you're entrusting it to God, really. Like, Lord, this is your daughter. I'm trying to deal with her as you told me. And all right, it's on you. And so it's taken me a lot of 8 years to kind of develop that. Still working on it, but to know you and to understand what you need to process information.
Oh, so sweet.
Yes.
So sweet.
Yes, beautiful. I know as Christians, we have made that commitment to one another, right? And our relationship, we realize first and foremost is we do want to really help each other to become all that we're called to be and that we've been created to be here on earth. And we've always heard the idea that, if there's any sort of relationship that allows you to truly become what God has destined for you to become, because there's nobody that knows you in such an intimate way. There's no one that's so willing to lay down their life for another as Christ laid down his life for a church than that marital, relationship, that intimate relationship as two becoming one. And so we, as believers and as people so heavily involved in ministry at one point or another, one of the things that we've brought forth in another episode with Joshua and I was how important it is to prioritize one another, and how important it was to him, to my husband, for us to truly be able to recognize what it is that we're working towards, that unified goal, that unified plan, and that we're both on that same, journey for that same purpose and having that same vision that we're working towards, especially with the man as a traditional idea of marriage, and as well as believers where the husband is the head of the household, the priest of the household, and that's leading and giving that direction for the family and the unit. So for both of you, how have you been able to prioritize your relationship, especially when it comes to so many things, really trying to grasp for your time, whether it is being involved in certain things in ministry together or apart, or you have demands professionally or demands with your family and your friends? How do you go about navigating those things as a couple and prioritizing each other?
Well, one thing we do in terms of this dealing with the demands of other people as it relates to us, before we commit to something, we talk about it. Even if it's just like me doing something with somebody else, even if it's like me doing something with someone else, like I'm still checking in and saying, hey, like somebody wants to do something, or I want to do something on Sunday. Do you have anything in mind on that day? I just want to make sure you're good. And he does the same thing. Like, just want to make sure that, we don't have anything planned. And we tell people like, hey, let me check back with, my husband or my wife. And when we do that, we never make it where we don't say like, let me see what he says or let me see what she says, because if ever we end up saying like no to something, we don't ever want the person to think like, oh, well, that person said no. It's more so, no, let me talk with my husband, or for him, my wife, and we'll let you know. So it's always a joint decision,
right,
when we come to that. And then the second part of your question, you were asking in terms of just prioritizing each other.
Yes, prioritizing the things that you decide to get involved in separately versus together as a couple. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, another way that we prioritize each other is like, for instance, when he gets home from work, I try to get things. I consider myself partly a homemaker, and so I'm at home and I just, getting things done, cooking, things of that sort. So my thing is, okay, if I know what time my husband's coming home, which is probably between 5 and 6, I'm not going to hop on a call with my girlfriend or hop on try to schedule something. I'm thinking like, okay, well, if he's coming home I want to be present for him. Now, when he comes home, he may not want to be around me, and I have to be okay with that. I do have some struggles with that, but allowing him to have that space that he needs to decompress after work, you know what I mean? Or if he's doing yard work, like allowing him that time to, decompress and cool off and stuff like that. And if he's, in the yard, bringing him something to drink, something to, eat or whatever like that, just kind of attending to his needs, you know what I mean? And I think he does the same for me too. It's just like, when I need my space and prioritizing like, okay, you know what, I want to do yard work, but I feel like I haven't taken Tiffany around, town. We haven't driven around, we have to drive around. So let me put aside yard work for this Saturday and let's go hang out. Yeah,
this is being sensitive to the Holy Spirit, but for sure, like prioritizing Tiffany, I would say from one little nugget that I learned from someone was, and I don't do this often, but I try to as much as possible. When I come home, I try to not to be on the phone, and so I come in and I give her a hug and a kiss. It's like, hey, this is your time. Everything outside is, it's no go. It's all you right now. So you're making you a priority. The other thing I think comes to people's expectations, we just tell them no. Like we just tell people like we just set boundaries, really. Yeah. We set boundaries, and as you know, as Tiffany is a very black and white, and so she's going to set boundaries and she's going to stick to them. I'm more of a like, hey, you can push it off a little bit, like let them come in a little bit more. But as you enforce your boundaries, whatever they are, people start to become accustomed to it. And now, like before, like my mom would ask me, hey, well, I know you got to check with your wife. So can I do this, that, and the other? I'm like, oh yeah, well, you already know. So just don't expect me to give you an answer right now. So people are starting to become accustomed to not having us respond immediately. And it was interesting because you get that when you're at church and you have obligations at church, and people think that, because you're young, you don't have anything to do, you have no kids, so you're free to do all kinds of things. It's like, Josh, you're going to be a youth pastor, you're going to be the custodian, you're going to be the parking lot attendant, like we're going to have to do everything. And you just got to say no. And people, we've said that before. We like, it goes back to our Selah moments, and we set our days
and priorities.
And priorities. So when we get to those moments when people are asking us information, I already know what's on the list. And some people are like, hey, we gonna hang out with us? Like, no, I can't. I got this, that, and the other.
And sometimes we don't even explain. We just say
no. Sometimes
I'm not able to do it.
Yeah. But then some people kind of applaud us. It's like, man, I've been running around this place, this church for years now, doing everything I can. I mean, I can't believe I got so many things on my plate. It's like, yeah, just say no. I don't have to go to that Bible study. I'm sorry. I got date night. This is
the one of maybe 10 Bible studies already on the calendar, right?
Yeah, I used to be that way.
I
worse towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, I really had somebody come at me with like, oh, you need to. I said, wait a minute, I thought God told me to put my wife first. Why am I? Like, wait a minute. So
we're still putting God first.
We're still putting God first.
Just because we're not going to a Bible study doesn't mean that.
I just said no.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are things that are non-negotiable, especially we know, of course, with our faith, with things that we've already committed to doing there, but then all the other extras that will encroach on that sacred space, that sacred thing that we've set aside for the sanctity of our marriage to keep, and both of us being in tandem. I know my husband is very silent right now, so I'm going to give him just a little moment here to kind of share if there's anything that he wants to add to the conversation.
Hey, Josh,
as he's looking sideways.
I'm listening.
What was the question?
So if there's anything you want to add to the conversation about, keeping that sort of sanctity with your communication, with how you go about prioritizing, because I know that's always been a big topic. And of a big concern. And that's one of the things that I've noticed personally that he was able to take lead on in terms of, saying, oh, this day, because I work so much and I have all these hours that goes towards professional work, I need to go ahead and set aside this day and this time for my wife. And I would find that, he wasn't using it really as an excuse to not do certain things, because he was already doing so many things for so many other people, and of course in ministry, which he still does today. But he did have to set that sort of that boundary, as you were mentioning. And when he did say that, and I found out that that was one of the things that he was really communicating to others, then it really allowed me to realize, wow, through action.
Yeah. Well, Josh, I want you to give me.
I thought you was gonna let me talk.
I was gonna say, Josh, you want to add on to that?
To my comments. You can just add into your own comments. Just jump in the comments anywhere. It's cool. Just give a thumbs up. That'd be cool. No, I think with age, really, experience comes more wisdom. You get to a certain point where you're just like, man, you just understand that you just can't do any more than what you can do. And, for a long time, it was just like run. Everybody wants you to say yes to everything. And you do it for a while. And then at a certain point, you're just like, man, I really can't do any more than what I can do. And be able to really honor all the other commitments that I have. And it's like, if you want to do something, obviously you want to do your best, and you want to do it with excellence, and you want to do it well and do it as unto the Lord. But so if in doing that, you have to make sure that you have the bandwidth really to be able to do that. So for me, it's kind of been like, my schedule is you start work Sunday afternoon and you finish work on Friday afternoon. So really it's, Friday night and Saturday is really your only time off. So it's like, you want me to do something on Friday night or Saturday? I'm probably going to say no, because I've really been working the rest of the week. So I'm probably, if there's anything extra, on top of what I already do, I'm probably just going to say no, and just kind of make sure that I have the time that, whatever we want to do or whatever we need to do, I at least make sure that I have that time set aside so that I'm free to be able to do stuff like that. Most of the time it ends up being stuff around the house, or driving to Sam's and getting groceries or whatever. But
honey-do list.
You're right. It's just it's just more the availability than anything else. So
of course quarantine has kind of helped with that, right? Because we've gotten some more projects done with the honey-do list, right?
Should be that way.
I mean, I don't know, every time I look up I got 5 more things I gotta do.
Hey.
I love that, though, in terms of projects that you can work on together, where it's not necessarily just you doing your thing and another one doing their thing. How have you found that to really solidify and strengthen you as a couple? One of the conversations that Joshua and I had recently, a heart to heart, because of course we've had to, if we did any takeouts during quarantine, it would have to be us going and ordering the food and then bringing it home to have it home together, right? But then just maybe a month ago, everything opened up here. And so one of the first times we went to, it was a Greek spot up the road, and we were able to sit outside and just chat and have some Greek food. And then I just started pouring out my heart and sharing some of the things and wanting to really find out his vision. And in this season, because we're coming up on a new season, we're coming up on the summer season, and we're also coming up on a new season in our marriage, as we're going to be celebrating a milestone. And so it's just like, that's one of the things, just continuously trying to have that conversation and find out and figure out if we're on the same wavelength, if we're heading in the same direction. And one of the things that Joshua pointed out was the fact that his expectations in terms of our level of involvement in certain things, with him having certain responsibilities in leadership and so forth, how it reflected on him when I didn't do certain things, or I did not show up, on time for certain things, or if I didn't do certain things. And so it's like, okay, like I didn't know this was just such a big thing for you. And the only way that I'm able to truly keep working at it is to find out and to talk about it. And we don't give up, even if we're not fully there at 100%. You know, that's a part of the process, is communicating the vision over and over again. Even as a leader, you have to do that to everyone who you're leading, is to constantly put out there what it is that you want and how important it is to work together in bringing that vision forth and making it a reality. So what I want to pose to you both is, are there any things that you've had to discuss as to, you're going to get involved in this project together, you're going to work towards doing this specific thing together, and it brought you closer as a couple together?
I mean, is there a such thing as like you separate and come back? I think there's moments where we talk about stuff, you're like, nope, you gotta come back. Go ahead.
So you said certain things that we decided to come together with and how it's brought us closer?
Yes, like it could be involvement in activities that you've decided to, or certain things you had a vision to accomplish as a couple.
Okay. Well, we enjoy working with teens in the church setting. And so in the past, we've been kind of youth leaders. And one of those things that it brought us together, because we both realized we had the same vision, the same heart to reach back and help others go forward. And I think we realized that, you know, that's something we want to continue pursuing. Yeah. And, you know, we had people in our families, and even people who are more of extended family and like friends, kind of just help us navigate through life. And we know that, you know, there's so many voices that are being, you know, projected to teens, to youth. And we want to kind of be that Christian voice, but also not just that the Christian voice in the sense like, you should do this, this, and that, but a relatability. Like, I've been there. I've been where you've been. You know what I mean? This is what I recommend you do. And just kind of being more like a mentor sort, while still kind of understanding that, you know, we are older and we're more experienced, but letting their voice be heard too. Yeah. And so with that, I think we just really bonded, and that's what we want to continue. One of the areas in which we want to definitely continue with that.
Yeah, and I was thinking like what brought us together in that. I don't think we collectively said, hey, we're going to sign up for team ministry or whatever. I think I was on. I think you came on because I was there, and you kind of slowly became more and more accustomed to doing it, and the girls started gravitating towards you more and more. And them seeing us as a couple had the kids gravitate towards more and more. Yeah. But I think because what probably attributed to that gravitation was something that a Bible scripture that says that in the multitude of counselors, purposes are established. And I think that like we try to be those counselors for the youth, that, hey, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? Let's help you process through that. You know, through all the stuff, and your parents are trying to help you stay on the straight and narrow, but you're trying to waver, and is it okay to waver or it's not? Or like just help them process the practical aspects of living the way, right? And so I think having that theme has brought us together, because we have circled ourselves with counselors, other couples and things like that, to kind of pour into us. And so now we can able to exemplify that to our teams. And we moved to another local body of followers, or another church, and we want to do that same thing and build up relationships. So I think that has our activity with that has kind of solidified what one of our main purposes as a couple is. Yeah. And
for them to see a healthy marriage too within the church and within the Black community. Let's also talk about that. You know, it's just, it's important for our youth to see that, you know, especially when you have all these different types of, you know, you have broken homes, and you have, you know, even homes that are broken, not even just in the sense of married or not married, but broken in the sense that, you know, there may be, you know, some combative marriages and things like that. So, for them to see that, and for them to know that, yeah, I may be the female in the relationship, but you can also reach out to Jason.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when that happens, we're both on the call, just for accountability purposes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's just kind of how we really kind of gelled and have a heart for doing that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, we've shared so many great, wisdom and experiences. And I know the listeners, as well as those who are going to be following along and watching this interview, can really glean from. Are there any final words that you want to be able to share with someone who's listening and wanting that insight as to, really becoming one as a couple with their partner, as well as, of course, incorporating faith and family and prioritizing those things and having that faith, as you were mentioning. And then if there are any places where people can connect with you both as well.
Okay. I would say is sometimes in marriage, we come together as two individuals before marriage. And then sometimes, of course, when we come together as one in marriage, sometimes you can kind of forget about who you are and what you like and things of that sort. So allowing the individuality in the marriage to still flourish while still flourishing together. And so that's one thing, like I'm more of a reflective. I need my space. I need space to a degree, because I do like being around him, but I'm more of a person that doesn't like to necessarily be around a lot of noise. So like the TV and stuff like that, like I could do music and stuff, but if you go into like my separate quarters of the house, like it's girly like yours, and I don't want a TV in there, I don't want any of that. I could just stare out the window. And so just allowing me to have that, whereas in his room, he likes TV, TV, and watching like movies and things of that sort. And so his is the opposite, but allowing him to still be himself and but still growing together is very important, because you don't want to become just Jason's wife or Tiffany's husband. Like that's all fine and dandy, but still, who are you as a person? That's still important for your show.
I would leave the people who are listening to encourage them. You have something that states in the background here. It says the power of why, I think. And so,
oh yes, you can see that. Yes.
I don't see it.
Right over there.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And I have better vision than you.
Yeah.
Oh, I see the book. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
But as you gave us some like free questions to kind of help us, and I was reading through, and I think the theme of it was like finding our why. And one thing we didn't talk about was, as a couple, the one thing that always brings us together, we're always evaluating what our why is. Why are we not why we're married, but why are we here as a couple? What is our purpose? What is our overall goal? And how can we manifest that? And for us, one of them is, as a leader, I've said that we're going to be a house that's of hospitality. We're going to be a home that people can come in and rest and feel the presence of God and peace and love, right? And so that drives us to the other tentacles businesses that we get into, like real estate and things like that. That permeates out. But I would encourage people to, one, explore your why with your mate, with your partner. Explore it. Don't be afraid of it. Be truthful. Say the truth. And then whenever that person says the truth, be patient to have that truth unfold and blossom.
And I would also just add to that, be okay with it evolving over time.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we wonder, what's our purpose? My purpose today may not be the purpose that I have in 10 years. And that's okay. Like, it's a journey. I mean, our number one purpose is to serve God. And I'm sure he has different things for us to do along the way. So just keeping that in mind, that it's not about a destination. It's about the journey of purpose and operating in that in every single day.
Beautiful. Oh, I couldn't have said it better myself. I love what you both shared as your final words. And Tiffany, like when you just said, life is a journey that is, I feel like, have you been watching the lives that we've been doing for thought?
No,
And yeah, so just last week we had on Sunday, because we have a Sunday chat that I do with my mom and my sister.
Okay.
And then we brought in a special guest on Sunday, Lisa Hunter, and we just really talked about how you can go forth and light your world. And we always talk about the processing that you have to go through to become that refined gem, you know, to really be all that you're called to be, and looking towards the fact that it's not necessarily about, you know, what it is that you are trying to accomplish and where it is that, yes, that's a part of it, where it is that you are hoping to go, but it's that processing and that journey to getting there that allows you to truly, you know, become that entire, you know, radiant gem, or that that fulfilled person that you're called to live out that destiny and purpose and calling. And so it's just so beautiful to see how everything, the conversations that are able to weave into, especially as a believer, into, you know, the entire scope of being, it all ties together.
Yeah.
And I'm really appreciative, Jason, that you pointed out the power of why. Oh, on this side, my hand, right? On that side, because we are supposed to be coordinating interviews with other people who are sharing their whys, because this is actually a book that we released last week, and on the first day we released it, it shot #1 on the charts internationally. So we first got #1 in the actually in the UK, then in Canada, and then in the USA. And so, you know, to be #1 on the bestseller, international bestseller list on Amazon for business, it's just been incredible to see. And one of the ways that they want to be able to keep that message forward is having people explore their whys. And I'm going to submit this video, this conversation, a part of that movement in sharing your why, because I think, you know, knowing what it is, and the podcast episode primarily, knowing what it is that you are here, placed on this earth to do, you know, and the fact that now you're not living just for yourself, you're living for the unified vision as to what God has placed you both as a couple together for, and then on earth to accomplish. And you guys are such an incredible example of that. And I'm so glad and grateful to be connected to you both.
Yeah, same here. We appreciate you guys, and we love you guys. And, you know, in Corona, we love you from a distance. You know, like,
Yes.
So, you know, once everything clears up, we're going to have one of those parties we had before.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
my
Yep.
We
gosh.
gotta do snow globing again.
I fall out every time I go back to those videos. Fall out.